For many of us, myself included, at this juncture, our ability to drive is our money. Our vehicles are our money. Our phones are our money. The last thing we need is any negative encounter with law enforcement because it will prove costly one way or another to us. Now, before I go further into this particular segment of the Gig Geezer, I'm sharing content that may affect all of us. And this is based on a series of content that I have compiled starting out of the state of Tennessee, in which there have been various media reports about drivers being arrested for DUI only to find out that they've tested sober. One TV station, WSVM out of Nashville, has been documenting stories and cases now for several years. And I've found a few other TV stations across the country and other media outlets that have also documented similar situations, producing similar stories and mostly interesting results. Now, this actually caught my attention because it appeared on my YouTube feed. Immediately, I thought about how something like this might impact those of you who are subscribers and viewers of the Gig Geezer channel. Again, our ability to drive is our money. The vehicles that we drive are our money, as is our phone, is our money. From an overall view, WSVM uncovered that between 2017 and 2023, that more than 600 people arrested for DUI had proved to be sober. We're talking about 0.0 in their blood tests that examined for drugs and alcohol being in their system at the time of their arrest.
New this morning, a WSMV-4 investigation has uncovered just how many Tennesseans have been charged with a DUI and were completely sober at that time.
Wait until you see how often this is happening. It is the latest bombshell discovery in Jeremy Finley's sobering problem investigation.
One by one, we've told you their stories. Mothers who lost temporary custody of their children, fathers who lost jobs and insurance, case after case of sober drivers charged with DUI. But we didn't know how often it was happening until this morning. Following our sobering problems investigations, the TBI compiled all of the cases of people charged with DUI in this 7-year period who had no alcohol or drugs in their system. Turns out it wasn't dozens, but more than 600 Tennesseans, 609 to be exact, innocent drivers totally sober charged with DUI. For perspective, if all of the sober drivers charged with DUI went to the Ryman, they would take up more than half of the seats in the upper balcony.
It's a miscarriage of justice.
We shared our findings with Xavier Gray, the latest Tennessean we found arrested for DUI, whose blood work shows was completely sober at the time of his arrest.
I knew nothing was in my system. I thought I was a special situation, but it looks like I'm not.
The first part of the data was gathered at the request of State Representative Lowell Russell, who watched our sobering problems investigations.
I've seen the news stories that you all did.
One of his constituents was arrested for DUI and was also sober at the time. And that data doesn't even include how often it's happened in 2024. Xavier Gray's arrest happened this year.
Now, what we got to take also into consideration is that the arresting officer, at least in practice and application, is to make a series of determinations based on their training and their professional judgment. There were instances in which the arresting officer alleged that the person reeked of alcohol or their vehicle reeked of alcohol, prompting them to conduct tests to determine whether a person may be under the influence. Oftentimes, the person who was arrested failed a field sobriety test, but it doesn't often take into account that person's health or age. In these situations, these Tennessee motorists had to wait several months usually between 5 and 6 months, but as many as 8 months due to a backlog at the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation's lab before their blood tests taken at the time of their arrest had returned with what should have been exonerating information. Now, I pose this question. What are some of the effects when an individual has been arrested for something like DUI, for something that they're not guilty of? Well, a few things come to mind. There's a great likelihood of a loss of job and or earnings. Their auto insurance coverage may be raided or revoked. Obviously, a loss of money. Their reputations may be lost because of the posting of their mugshots, which are public record. Mugshots are public record, and therefore there's a market of people that will post mugshots on social media and various websites. What's another effect of being arrested for something that you're actually not guilty of? Your health, due to the stress of the situation. Now, I viewed and downloaded about a dozen reports from various TV stations, as well as a couple of articles from various websites with the content that I'm about to share. The first one involves these arresting officers and the use of their body cameras. What I found out, according to one article, is that state troopers in Tennessee are allowed to mute and cut off their body cameras during the course of a stop. Now, how does this involve then a DUI arrest being, how does this involve a DUI arrest that turned out to be a sober person?
In our sobering problem investigations, how you can be sober in Tennessee and still be arrested for DUI.
If it happened to you, you may think body camera footage would capture it all to prove your innocence.
You would hope it would, but Chief Investigator Jeremy Finley uncovers what state troopers are allowed to do while they're recording you.
There's something that happens as Thomas Manis is about to be arrested for DUI. As the troopers go to the back of the squad car to talk, the audio is turned off. And that got us wondering, are they able to do that? Especially given that after Manis was arrested for DUI, his blood work showed he was completely sober, and now he's suing both troopers. So we filed an open records request and got the THB's body cam policy. Well, the first thing you read in this subsection is that body cameras are supposed to remain activated and not deactivated when, for example, someone like Manis is pulled over. But there are exceptions. Look, the audio can be turned off during communication with other law enforcement. It means what troopers talk about, if you're pulled over, you'll never know.
It's never necessary.
And that's a problem for attorneys like Seth Crabtree, who specialize in defending people charged with DUI, especially for clients who are sober at the time of their arrest.
If you're not doing anything wrong, you want that body cam rolling. It's a bad look, I think, for law enforcement to record an entire interaction with the public and their investigation and then kill the cam.
Well, in this guy's situation, the policeman turned off his body camera, but it was deemed legal for the police to do that. The person who was arrested has sued the state of Tennessee for false arrest and unlawful seizure. But according to state policy, the body camera is supposed to be always activated and not deactivated, but their camera can be turned off during lawful communication with other law enforcement personnel, and what they talk about may not be known. So, as citizens, we're under the presumption that the body camera is supposed to kind of help us out, kind of help protect both sides of both parties, the officer and the citizen. But let's just say that the citizen is not always protected in these situations. From another article I came across, 7 people that were sober had been charged with DUI by different state troopers in different parts of the state of Tennessee. And this was a June 2024 story that was reported by the same TV station, WSVM Nashville. In one particular situation, the cop claimed that there was a distinct smell of alcohol that came from the person or inside that individual's vehicle. Now, this is actually a common catch line that law enforcement like to use, along with saying that the license plate light is not working or a tail light is not working. I'll add with the license plate light in that in most jurisdictions, the license plate light is supposed to be visible by at least 50 feet. Just little FYI information. According to that TV report, one female motorist had been pulled over for failure to move over during a traffic stop. Now, in several states, there is now a law that requires drivers to move over when they see first responder vehicles in the course of official duties. So that means if you see a tow truck, or you see paramedics or a fire truck or a police officer, but let's just say, for example, police officer has pulled over someone on the side of the road. You're like in a multi-lane stretch of road. If you're in that lane closest to where that action is, you're supposed to go to the lane to your left or to your right. You're supposed to give them like basically go into the other lane to be clear of what's going on there.
7 innocent people for a crime they didn't commit.
7 sober drivers charged with DUI arrested by different troopers in different parts of the state.
It's the latest discovery in Chief Investigative Reporter Jeremy Finley's sobering problem investigation.
Go ahead and step on out of the car and we're going to have a conversation, okay?
On the evening of June 23rd, Stephanie Fair was about to find out she was in double trouble.
There's a very distinct odor of alcohol that comes from either a person or inside the vehicle.
Right.
Okay.
I understand, but I, on my life, I don't drink alcohol. I just ate.
When he started asking me about drinking, I instantly got this feeling in my stomach, like this is bad.
And it was. She'd been pulled over for failing to move over, something the state trooper was not pleased about.
She almost hit me when I was wrapping up a traffic stop. I come up to the car and it just reeks of alcohol. How's she doing the test? You can see it in her eyes.
He clearly states
Yeah.
he could smell the odor of alcohol beverage.
Yeah, when he said he could smell it, I know this is corrupt. This is completely wrong.
Place your hands behind your back.
Why?
Because you're being placed under arrest for DUI.
Wait.
Ma'am?
Why? But I haven't drank anything. But I don't drink.
And she was right. Not only did her blood work show she had neither alcohol nor drugs in her system, her attorney got video of where she'd been before being pulled over. That's her getting ice cream.
I have tried. I was more scared being with that cop alone than I actually was inside the jail.
In another case, a woman had been in an accident. Her car had flipped over. Police had her to do a field sobriety test. She told them that she couldn't do it being in pain. But guess what? After several thousands of dollars and an attorney, the case against her was dismissed after proving that she had no drugs of any consequence. She had medication or alcohol in her system.
I was terrified.
Candace Slate can sympathize.
It's hurting to do that on my knee.
After her car flipped in an accident, a state trooper asked her to do a field sobriety test. Clearly in pain,
That really hurts.
she doesn't do well.
I know I bombed it. I mean, I was in shock.
Go ahead and put your hands behind your back under arrest for dominant influence.
What? I thought, oh my God, I'm going to lose my daughter, who I can't lose her. You know, I can't lose my license. I mean, this is my life.
Several $1,000s paid to an attorney later, she got her blood work. No alcohol. Her level of prescription medication so low, the charge of DUI was dismissed.
I ended up broke, trying to prove my innocence. Yes, I won. It was dismissed, but I'm terrified to drive now.
Now, this same report identified that there is no Tennessee Bureau of Investigation record of police officers or state police agencies who are making arrests. In other words, there's no database of the people who are making these arrests. What is there is a database of the arrests themselves. And again, according to that report, more than 600 drivers have been arrested between 2017 and 2023, but were actually sober. These 600 drivers have been arrested for DUI between 2017 and 2023, but were actually sober. There are drivers who have attempted fighting back with lawsuits. A typical lawsuit is for unlawful arrest, which is based on a violation of the Fourth Amendment. David Dutton, an older male, was arrested for DUI. He said he'd not been drinking, nor did he actually drink. He'd gone to a pool hall. He said he'd been pulled over. He said he was pulled over by police due to a taillight not working and allegedly for drifting onto the shoulder of the road. During the arrest, a police officer on the scene scoffed that he never knew of a sober person playing as much pool. Dutton explained to these police officers that he also was a diabetic and had not taken any insulin that night. He'd also dealt with a slipped disc in his back, hence his explanation for failing a field of sobriety test. Now, according to his federal lawsuit, he even had a disabled driver's tag in clear view that the arresting officer either failed to notice or recognize. Additional information that's been provided in this lawsuit is that Dutton was age 75 at the time of his arrest. His attorney referred to a National Highway Traffic Safety Administration guideline that noted people over age 65 were more likely to fail field of sobriety tests due to various medical conditions.
He's older. Let's cuff him in the front.
An arrest almost exactly a year ago tonight is now the subject of a federal lawsuit.
I was just without balance.
Gotcha.
That's David Dutton on August 17th last year, having just played pool, pulled over by Rutherford County Deputy Zach Williams. Listen to what Williams says about pool players before Dutton is given his field sobriety test.
Never known a sober person to shoot much pool.
Oh, I know.
Despite Williams admitting health problems, including not taking insulin that night for his diabetes and suffering from a slipped disc, he's arrested for DUI after failing the field sobriety test. 5 months later, blood tests showed he was completely sober the entire time.
I know he doesn't drink.
Now Williams is suing, pointing out something we didn't even notice in the body camera footage. Take a look. He has a disabled driver's tag. The lawsuit also cites this from a DUI detection instruction guide by the National Highway Traffic and Safety Administration, that people over 65 years old with back problems have difficulty performing the test. Here's what Dutton told Deputy Williams about his back.
Said he'd been dealing with a disc for 45 years?
Oh, yeah.
And Dutton was 75 years old at the time. Remember, NHTSA advises anyone 65 or older with health problems can fail the test. The lawsuit blames the Sheriff's Department for not providing training on how to distinguish between medical conditions and alcohol or drug impairment.
He is suing the Rutherford County, Tennessee Sheriff Department for $400,000. The 2026 trial date has been set. Oftentimes, now from a former reporter's experience, this is what I do know about law enforcement agencies. When they're often approached by media, these agencies often will cite that they cannot comment or conduct interviews, citing pending investigations. If they do respond, they tend to acknowledge in some cases that blood tests returned may be without evidence of drugs or alcohol, and therefore the charges are dropped. But they will say then that probable cause did exist at the time of arrest. So then, what about these field of sobriety tests? Oftentimes, the person is arrested because of them failing it. One guy, Jeff Adams of Goodlettsville, Tennessee, said that he was a double hip replacement patient. Now, this one was of particular interest to me because I had hip replacement surgery back in September 2018. So I kind of understood then that his ability to pass the test was already suspect. Adams was arrested in September 2023 while going to work one morning at a junior high school. He also did rideshare on the side as a Uber driver. Now, this case was dismissed about 5 months later after blood tests confirmed what he'd been telling the arresting officer, Noah Werner, who, according to WSVM's report, had arrested 2 other people on DUI charges, only to find out that they were sober as well.
Well, those drivers telling Fox 17 News' Kelly Avellino their efforts are costing at least one city some cold hard cash.
Sir, I have not drinking.
But the pleas from middle school teacher Jeff Adams didn't work after 2 Goodlettsville police officers pulled him over. Neither did telling investigators about his double hip replacement that makes walking a straight line shaky.
Do you have any medical problems that would impair your judgment?
No, not judgment. Standing, I've had 2 hip replacements, so it is hard to stand.
Do you drink occasionally or?
I don't drink at all.
In fact, Adams initially offered to take a field sobriety test, confident he'd pass.
Little did I know, as soon as I got out of the car, I was pretty much going to jail because he seemed very excited that I said I would do a field sobriety test.
But Adams misjudged his own ability. He then hoped a breathalyzer test would exonerate him on the spot.
I don't drink.
The reason you're being arrested right now.
Yeah.
Probable cause. You showed enough signs of impairment on the test for me to make an arrest.
Adams immediately lost his part-time job as an Uber driver and feared damage to his reputation as a teacher and coach.
I've had less than 5 traffic infractions in my life, and then to be arrested for a DUI, and you have to explain that to your own kids, and worry about it getting out to the school system.
After 5 long months, Adams' alcohol and drug tests came back negative, and a judge dismissed the case. But Adams says the emotional and financial toll are far from over.
It was the most stressful, most traumatic experience I've ever had.
Now, what turned out, what also occurred from Adams' situation is that he sued the city of Goodlettsville for $75,000. That case was settled this past August for $5,000, which is hardly any consolation. I came across another situation in Fort Collins, Colorado, in that its police department had been named in 5 lawsuits, according to local media affiliate Fox 31, for DUI arrests of sober people back between 2020 and 2022. The arresting police officer, Jason Hafferman, resigned in 2022 before he was fired. A Fort Collins police internal investigation was initiated 5 days after these arrests were mentioned in that TV station's newscast back in April 2022. The investigation unearthed that Hafferman had falsely arrested 8 people in 2021. He's being sued by 5 of these people, but he resigned from the Fort Collins police force amid that internal investigation. According to its police chief, Jeff Swoboda, Hafferman had faced termination. An attorney who's representing a number of people who'd been arrested, Sarah Schilke, said in the discovery phase that nobody within Fort Collins Police Department had reviewed any of the arrest cases. Police Chief Swoboda said during an interview that if they send out blood work and it comes back that there wasn't any drugs or alcohol, then they look back at these cases. He said then that they would try to reconstruct things. The department reviews the case. How do they review? They may review the body camera of the police officer, paperwork, and blood tests. Now, Attorney Schilke said nobody from the police force supervised Hafferman properly. He said that supervisors had not reviewed any of the arrests that this officer had made. Another of her clients, Harry Elias, had sued the city of Loveland Police Department, also in Colorado, stemming from a December 2020 arrest. He took a breathalyzer. That came back zeros. The arresting officer, William Gates, then demanded that Elias take a blood test. That also came back zeros. Now, This case was dismissed by the district attorney's office. Elias followed up with a federal lawsuit that was filed in 2022.
The city of Loveland has agreed to pay a Northern Colorado man $400,000 over this 2020 DUI arrest. Breath and blood tests later showed the man had not been drinking and did not have drugs in his system. It was actually the second time the same man was stopped by police for DUI, and the second time all testing came back negative.
The driver, Harry Elias, says what happened was baffling. Brian Moss talked to both Elias and his lawyer today. So, Brian, what are they saying?
Well, his lawyer says these wrongful arrests that we've seen more than once are due to what she calls a culture of competitive pursuit of DUI arrests by police departments without regard for the driver's innocence. She calls it the gamification of DUI arrests. The lawyer goes on to say, with innocent lives at stake, DUI enforcement should not be a competition.
How much have you had to drink tonight?
This was the 2020 Loveland DUI stop that is now costing that city $400,000.
Well, I smell the overwhelming odor of alcohol coming from your vehicle.
Loveland police officer William Gates stopped Windsor resident Harris Elias, saying Elias failed to signal and was driving only 18 miles an hour in a 45-mile-an-hour zone.
The entire system is set up to just go after people for no legal or logical reason.
Police arrested Elias for DUI, but a breath test showed no alcohol, and a follow-up blood test showed nothing in Elias's system.
I'm under stress. My freedom is at stake, sir.
Now Loveland will pay Elias $400,000 to settle his lawsuit over the DUI arrest, although the city and police are not admitting any wrongdoing.
It sounds like a lot of money, but but my gosh, what they did was atrocious.
Elias's lawyer blames this arrest and others on incentives offered to officers for whoever makes the most DUI arrests, awards, honors, and accolades.
If we're incentivizing and patting them on the back for the quantity of DUI arrests that they're making without caring at all for the quality of them, that's a disgusting and terrible system that's going to hurt more and more innocent people.
Oddly, this very same thing happened to Elias when a Fort Collins police officer also arrested him for a DUI, saying Elias smelled of alcohol. He spent 3 days in jail in that case, but a blood test later showed no traces of alcohol or drugs. He is suing Fort Collins police over that arrest.
I'm not playing a game, sir. This is my freedom that you're talking about.
He won his case in December 2023 and was awarded $400,000. Gates and his former boss, Police Chief Bob Tyser, were no longer at the Loveland Police Department at the time of Elias's award from that case. Tyser resigned shortly after the lawsuit was filed, and he took a similar job in Prescott Valley, Arizona. I had not found any information on where William Gates had gone on to work. Another situation, a City of Commerce, Georgia police officer, Cody Wood, was fired for repeated arrests of people for DUI when they were sober. All cases were eventually dismissed. The investigation of Woods cited failure to adhere to department policy over a series of 2023 arrests that were made, quote, made in error and failure to supervisor direction. The TV station that aired this particular officer's firing had invited the Georgia Department of Investigation to investigate all the incidents involving Wood. They turned down the invite because they said it lacked criminal activity on the part of the officer. So one might ask, when these law enforcement pull people over and arrest them for DUI only to find out that they're sober, is this a cash grab? Well, let's look at it this way. Going back to the article by going back to the reports by WSVM Nashville, between 2017 and 2023, more than 102,000 DUI arrests were made in the state of Tennessee, the exact number being 102,290. More than 600, the exact number being 609, returned that drivers did not have drugs or alcohol in their system at the time of arrest. So we're talking less than 1% of these arrests more like about 0.5%. So does that mean 99.5% of the time, these officers get it right? Or should we look at it this way? 0.5% of the time, people who have been arrested for DUI may actually be sober. So that may sound like an outlier. Or does it sound like it's just merely being unfortunate, being at the wrong place at the wrong time? Well, I guess the best way of looking at it is this way. Wait until it happens to you. But that's the reason why I'm doing this particular segment of the Gig Geezer. And by the way, if you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. My reason for doing this is to bring it to your attention that while we're out here, there is the possibility that this can happen to you. It could happen to me. It could happen to any other gig worker or someone who does delivery and transport. Now, according to another media report out of Tennessee, it noted that nearly 12% of court cases involving DUIs are dismissed. In fact, the exact number being 11.46% of cases that go before the court were actually dismissed. So then, what are some of the incentives for police making these arrests? According to TV reports out of Tennessee, one officer, David Williams, a Rutherford County, Tennessee deputy, had been recognized by Mothers Against Drunk Driving as a top enforcer for DUI arrests. He charged 51 people for DUI in 2022. So in this case, it's a matter of recognition, a stroke of his ego. What's some other reasons? Potential promotion, potential bonuses or raises, departments receiving additional funding, or in some local government cases, it may be a leading source of revenue dollars. So what happens to some of these cops and law enforcement agencies and local governments if they are found to be liable or if they are found to have violated people's rights? In most cases, nothing. And then again, those who are found between the crosshairs of public and legal scrutiny often resign before the likelihood of termination. Then again, among some of the law enforcement officers who may be involved directly or indirectly, many of them move on to other agencies in similar capacities. And then again, if a settlement is reached, the law enforcement agency or local government often do not admit to any wrongdoing. In fact, they are likely to deny any liability. But what are some of the other ancillary effects of these DUI cases? Attorney fees, possible payment of local government fees, possible payment of lab testing fees. In fact, in some situations, when a person is arrested and until they have been proven innocent, some must comply with court orders and submit to breathalyzer tests before driving to prove that they're not drinking. So this brings in outside entities that actually profit off of these things. So there's one company called Intoxilock. They have a device that is linked to the ignitions of an individual's car. So that means that they must blow into that breathalyzer, and if it determines that they've not been drinking, then it allows them to be able to start the car. These people who use this must sign a contract and lease the equipment. Failure to pay that lease may result in collections.
This is a racket. Everybody's connected to everybody.
That's the reaction from the former president of A&M Records to what WSMV-4 Investigates has uncovered tonight.
We found how people are profiting off the wrongful arrest of sober drivers charged with DUIs.
The Grammy Award-winning music executive says he found out when his former pop star wife was arrested. Chief investigative reporter Jeremy Finley here with the latest in his sobering problem investigation.
Yeah, last week we first told you about Stephanie Fair. She is the latest person we found to be sober when she was charged with DUI in Tennessee. If her name and face kind of look familiar, it's because she's worked in the entertainment industry since the 1990s. And that's exactly why she says she and her family became a target when she was wrongfully arrested.
Why? But I haven't drank anything. But I don't drink.
You can see getting arrested for a DUI while she was sober is traumatizing for Stephanie Fair. But what would come next would impact every member of her family.
Not even 12 hours later, my mugshot is on Scoop Nashville.
Fair's mugshot was posted to the Instagram account of Scoop Nashville, a site infamous for posting the photos of people charged with crimes. But Fair's arrest got more than 1,500 likes. Why? On her website, you can find the music videos from when she was part of the all-girl group Wild Orchid with her bandmate Fergie. She'd later go on to appear on Bravo TV for a reality show on Los Angeles mothers. She's married to Ron Fair, the Grammy Award-winning former president of A&M Records, described as a music mogul in Scoop's article. But it wasn't just Fair and her husband who were named in the post.
And there was also another aspect to it that was very mean-spirited and dastardly and unacceptable, which was the tagging of our children.
Following that post, the phone call started from St. Petersburg, Florida.
This is so-and-so from Reputation Defenders. And it was straight up extortion 101. Hey, Ron, we see your wife's mugshot on there. Yeah, that's got to be terrible for you with, your profile and stuff. And we're able to take that down for the fee of $12,500.
A lot of people don't understand how there's a business behind this.
This is a racket. Everybody's connected to everybody.
The Fairs rejected the calls.
I'm not paying anybody to take anything down.
There is a reputation management company called Reputation Defender. But in a statement to WSMV-4 Investigates, they have no record of reaching out to Ron Fair, saying they don't contact people following an arrest, and they believe someone may be impersonating the company. But that wasn't the only way someone was trying to profit off the DUI arrest of a woman whose blood work would later show was completely sober at the time of her arrest.
Arrest pictures are public knowledge. Arrest pictures are something that can be posted on a website or social media or print publications. And so you've got people out there who actually profit off of this. And there are people who have sued these websites, these social media pages to have their mugshots removed, or they have demanded that their mugshots be removed, but these people charge them exorbitant fees to have it removed. In fact, in one situation, a Kentucky man was awarded more than $350,000, the exact number being $364,000, in his lawsuit against Nashville Scoop because it had profited off of people paying them to remove their mugshots. In fact, in his case, his lawsuit was that he had paid them, but they didn't do all that they said that they were going to do. And so he sued them citing extortion. That's what it almost amounts to. People are being extorted into having their pictures removed. So one of the more bizarre things about Nashville Scoop is that the guy who founded the website died earlier this year. And so the content that's been posted on that website remains in public space. So I'm going to end this segment of the Gig Geezer again with some of the other negative effects when a person might be arrested for DUI, but they are actually sober. There's the potential of lost job and earnings, auto insurance coverage being rated or revoked, loss of money, depending on the individual, could be temporary loss of custody of a child or children. Reputations are damaged because of also the public mugshots that are posted out there in social media or on websites or in their print publications. And then from the stress of all this, one's health. So that's all I have to share for this particular segment of the Gig Geezer. Again, this is really to bring to your attention what's going on out there. There's always the possibility of a motorist being pulled over by law enforcement. But as what I'm finding out, there's also the possibility of being pulled over and charged with something that you're completely innocent of, and something that can be very damaging. So with that, that's all I have to share for this particular segment of the Gig Geezer. If you like the content that's been provided in this segment or in any other segment, hit that subscribe button, give my content a thumbs up, share my content among others, and I definitely welcome comments in the section below. I'm in Wood Lane. As always, may your grind and may your hustle continue.